So much has been made in the last couple days over Stephen A's treatment of Max Kellerman, particularly since he's been removed from First Take for over 2 years and more recently he's been let go by the network. Stephen A has been criticized on social media for his comments on Kellerman's exit from the show after stating that Max was never an athlete nor did he ever come from a journalism background because that's why people watch you, Stephen A. Honestly, don't even bother calling what you do on First Take as journalism. Anyways, a lot of discussions on Twitter have made the rounds as to why Stephen A. Smith did not enjoy working with Max, with many pointing to that one viral moment when Terrell Owens appeared on First Take.
Mentioned obviously Max is going to get in here, and like I said, I'm in the streets. Max almost seems blacker than you, Stephen A. with what he's coming, with his commentary.
With all due respect, my brother.
I'm just saying, dog.
Wait a minute, wait to finish.
I'm just saying.
I'm gonna check you right now. You don't cross the line.
I'm just saying.
Time. Wait a minute. You don't cross the line.
Many blame this incident, among others, as the reason why Stephen A. and Max's relationship turned sour. You could tell Max looked visibly uncomfortable when T.O. uttered those words, but if you have ever watched First Take, you can understand why Terrell said what he said. On top of that, some people believe that Stephen A. didn't like the fact that Max would mop the floor with him in debates as he's a bit more articulate and backs his arguments up with data.
I'm only speaking about recreational use of marijuana. I think it's abhorrent. I think it's ridiculous, and I don't support it at all in terms of the NBA legalizing it. If states want to legalize it, so be it. They want to tax it, so be it. But I don't believe that a paying customer should take money out of their hard-earned money out of their pockets to patronize an NBA product, to walk to a game and see some dudes walking up courtside. I don't believe that. And I can say that because I have seen instances where it has occurred. I'm not going to mention any names, but I've seen it up close and personal, where a dude goes in and you got a coach sitting there calling a play and the player's like, rocking back and forth. Hell no. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to see it. I don't want it endorsed. I don't want it okayed. And under no circumstances am I accusing the former commissioner of the NBA for endorsing that, because I know that's not what he means. He's taking it from the standpoint that if it's been legalized in multiple states and it's expected to be legalized in even more states, how are we going to call it illegal? I'll answer the question for him, because David Stern is far more brilliant than I could ever hope to be, and he's accomplished, and I love the man personally. But let's be clear. You do have situations where the NBA is a private industry. You can do what the hell you want. You understand? Let me tell you something right now. It might be, we could go to Colorado. We could go to LA. We could go someplace else where marijuana is legalized. Let Stephen A. Smith roll on the air high and watch what ESPN and Walt Disney does to me. Let's stop the nonsense and start acting like, oh, because it's legal in a state, that means that you should be allowed to come into your place of business with high or smoking weed and all of this stuff like it's going out of style. Hell no. It is. If people can't be disciplined enough to refrain from it, that's their problem. I don't want to see that.
Hold on.
I don't.
This is not about showing up to the game high. No one is saying the players should be high when they play.
That's not what I'm saying
even
either.
Said that?
I'm saying they will.
But
they will. They'd have the right to.
Because there are examples of players who've shown up high, that's a reason to outlaw recreational use on someone's own time. It's absurd on its face. Many baseball players have shown up. World Series.
No, that's not accurate.
Series
you said
games
your own time. No, answer that. You said your own time. What do you mean your own time? Be specific. Be specific.
When
what do you mean your own time?
When you're not playing the game, not the night you're playing it. You can't show up high. You can't show up high. But after the game, what you go off and do is your business. Now, many pitchers, David Wells came straight from the bar, drunk, pitched a perfect game.
He should be allowed to. I'm against that too.
Of course, but that doesn't mean that you say they can't drink alcohol on their own time, particularly a league that is in bed with companies that peddle alcoholic beverages. It is absurd, if that's the standard, that especially once marijuana is legalized, to set, if the bar is alcohol, marijuana passes that threshold. Every credible peer-reviewed study ever done will tell you alcohol is worse societally and for the individual is certainly is no better than weed. In fact, it's usually worse, according to every study ever done.
We are protesters. We got a lot to protest about. But when you riot, particularly in your own community, in the past I'm talking about, why is that something that we've lamented? Because when the fire stops burning and the damage has been done, and you've done it in your own community, where do you go from there? The Detroit riots, for example, in 1967, they still have never fully recovered from that, how they ravaged their own community at that particular moment in time. I only bring that up to say this. In this regard, and I only bring that up to say this. In this regard, when you're looking at the NBA, you're not talking about the players. You're talking about the collateral effect that it has on people the sport employs, on people in local economies who feed off of that. The fact is, just something like that, canceling the NBA season, it's not just going to affect the players. It's going to affect thousands upon thousands of people, millions if not billions of dollars for the economies. And that's going to have a ripple effect. You can't ignore that because that's going to affect us.
Obviously,
that's not about games.
It's better not to riot. I'm not pro-riot, okay? Let me be very clear about that off the top.
I'm not saying that. I just brought that up.
Rioting in their own communities, black people don't own those communities. They don't own those communities, and this culture has been rioting against black people for hundreds of years now.
That wasn't my point,
so it's just interesting. But they're not. The property they're destroying is not their own, even in fact. I'm not. So that's why I said it's not like the idea that, well, this is counterproductive. It may be in certain ways. It is in certain ways. Not maybe. I don't want to. It is in certain ways, and it's it's better not to riot. However, it's not in all the ways that's presented in the media. Colin Kaepernick, and by the way, Colin Kaepernick showed leadership because a lot of others have followed his lead. Yes. But what happens when someone shows leadership, and this even you see it in labor relations? You know who never got paid? Curt Flood. You know who got paid because of Curt Flood? Everyone else. It is very possible what we're seeing now is the sacrifice of Colin Kaepernick's career on the altar of social and racial progress. And when he doesn't get a job, and I did not come out right away when they said blackballed, right? I did not come out right away. Max, preach. Yes, that's what's happening because I thought he's looking for a starting job. Maybe he's seen as a bubble starter. You got to change your offense. He'll get a backup job. But now the results are in. The evidence is in. He does not have a starting job. He does not have a backup job. 31 of the owners are old white men, right? And precisely the issue that Colin Kaepernick is protesting is systematic racial injustice, which starts with the international slave trade, the Middle Passage, the institution of slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, ongoing systematic oppression, which has created racial imbalance in terms of social justice. That's essentially what Colin Kaepernick is protesting. And the fact that then an almost exclusively white club of owners, because unless you believe that black people are intrinsically inferior at making money, I guess that's not true, right? Unless you believe that, then you also understand that the fact that the NFL is an all-white club at the ownership level, essentially, is a result of that injustice. Think of the irony that he doesn't have a job, partly because he's protesting the very reason that right now he doesn't have a job.
Hold on. Wow. That's nice.
Who's a more unstoppable, forget about scoring, forget about natural, forget about who it's easy for, who's a more unstoppable offensive player? It's a 5-on-5 game. LeBron James or Kevin Durant?
Kevin Durant.
Incorrect.
Kevin Durant.
LeBron James is a
what are you
far more unstoppable
what are you watching?
Offensive player.
Far more unstoppable? That's a joke. That's a joke.
Offensive player.
Excuse me, I didn't stutter.
Not just shooting.
I didn't stutter.
Not just scoring.
You didn't ask me about a jab or a body shot. You asked me about a jump shot. You asked me about basketball. Let me tell you something right now. Kevin Durant is 6'11", who can pull up from 40.
Okay.
This brother is on that level. I'm talking about offensively. Now, Kevin, if you want to tell me that LeBron James, from a physical, he's big and he's unstoppable because he can get to the basket anytime he wants to. Kevin Durant,
6'11", and he can shoot from three.
You're asking me. You're acting like Kevin Durant ain't even in the conversation. LeBron doesn't have the offensive skills that Kevin Durant has.
Incorrect. Kevin Durant doesn't have the offensive skills LeBron has.
Oh my God.
You're taking offense to mean scoring. Offense is much more than scoring. Now. Karl Malone was unstoppable going to the basket. What was he, about 260?
Right.
That's what LeBron is.
guys.
But he passes like Magic Johnson, and he can shoot from outside.
I'm not even talking to you about this no more. It's ignorant.
Okay.
I'm not even talking to you about it no more.
Stephen A., to your,
I'm not even talking to you about it no more.
earlier point, he's won a couple chips now, and I could see him wanting, he took all that
Karl
criticism
Malone
for joining
passes
a
like
super
Magic
team,
and
move
shoots.
on, be the man in a big market.
Offensively.
Black folks in America, I want you to hear me and hear me good. When I pointed out that Colin Kaepernick's actions on Saturday eradicated anything, I wasn't talking about the kneeling. I wasn't talking about the protesting. I was saying your proclamation that you desperately wanted back in the National Football League from your camp, that you wanted the opportunity to be employed by the NFL again to play football. I said your action Saturday got in the way of it. You can debate the waiver all you want to. For all I don't know whether it's true or not, I have it. I'm not disputing it. That's for the NFL to do, Colin Kaepernick's people to do. We're going to be fair-minded. We're going to point both sides based on the information that we have available to us. What I am saying is, at the end of the day, here's what doesn't matter. If you show up to a workout with a Kunta Kinte T-shirt on, if you have the workout after bucking their offer on Saturday, then you have the press conference thereafter where you take no questions. But you're looking into the cameras and you're antagonizing the NFL to tell them to stop running, that we all know the truth, et cetera, et cetera. What you're doing is getting in the way of your own aspiration to get back.
But
and hold on.
What if he was advised not to sign it and this was true?
And what I'm saying to you is this: that's fair. If you see what people are not hearing is there is a difference between not showing up for the workout and how you handle it. We talk about guys all the time, how you handle it. You could have had your lawyers sit up there earlier in the week from the time Tuesday arrived and they made the offer, and you could have said, I don't want to show up for this. Here's why. And you could have publicized that through your attorneys, and that would have been fine. You had the workout. After the workout, you were on camera calling out owners and giving them fodder to say, look at this guy. He wants a job, but he's coming at us. Why should we want to hire him? Fair or unfair? I've said it before, and I'll say it again. When white folks catch a cold, black folks catch pneumonia. It's twice, if not even more difficult for us. We know that. We know how unfair it is. But if you want the job, you have to guard against that. He elected not to do so. So why be surprised by this?
We talked about this point.
That's my point.
We talked about this point yesterday. And what you're alluding to there is actually white privilege. Black people don't enjoy it. And I'm not giving up any privilege, not a single bit of privilege. But I will insist that all human beings are so privileged. And that includes Kaepernick. And if he wants to wear a Kunta Kinte shirt, good for him. I do think it is fair to ask the question, Stephen A., based on his talking about the owners, don't be scared. There's a better way to say that. He could have said something like, I know there's a lot of pressure on owners not to hire me. I know there's some pressure on owners also to hire me.